Conservative New Media sports fans, we've got some bad news to pass along for the legion of Tim Tebow fans. First of all, let me just say that we at Conservative New Media like Tim Tebow. However, you have to call them as you see them. That being the case, I think it is fairly clear to say that today was a day when the Tim Tebow hype train that revved up in earnest after last week's comeback victory against the Dolphins hit the proverbial wall. And that's because the high-powered Detroit Lions went to Sports Authority Field at Mile High in Denver, Colorado this afternoon and proceeded to manhandle Tebow and the Denver Broncos on the Broncos' home turf. The final score of the mismatch was 45-10 for the Lions. We'll include several links on this story in the video description below the video player as soon as they become available. And one of those links will be to a web page that describes the new internet-generated fad known as Tebowing. What's Tebowing, you ask? Well, it's easier to show you than it is to tell you what it is, and the link will have several examples of the Tebowing pose so you can get an idea of what it is. Basically, it is when a person, in imitation of Tim Tebow, bends down on one knee, places their elbow on the opposite knee, and then rests their hand on their head as if in prayer. Now, why does that matter here, Tebowing? Because Lions defender Stephen Tulloch made sure he struck the Tebowing pose after recording a sack of the Denver quarterback. Tebow and the Broncos started the contest well, with the second-year quarterback driving the team down the field on the opening possession for the first 3 points of the game early in the first quarter. To say that things went downhill for Tebow and Denver after that would be an understatement. Detroit scored the next 45 points of the contest over 4 quarters, with Denver not putting up more points until late in the fourth quarter, with the game long since over. Was the loss all Tebow's fault? Definitely not. Denver's defense was awful, horrible, and it was only made to look worse against the up-tempo attack of Matthew Stafford, Calvin Megatron Johnson, and the rest of the Lions. Megatron finished with 6 catches for 125 yards and 1 touchdown for the game. Tebow's stats were far less impressive. He finished 18 of 39 passing for 172 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. He also had 63 yards rushing on 10 carries. He was sacked 7 times and fumbled 3 times, one of which the Lions recovered. For Detroit, this was a very important win as they head into their upcoming bye week. The Lions had lost 2 straight games after starting the year 5-0. The 45 points scored by Detroit today was the most they have scored in a road game since 1967. That last stat comes courtesy of Fox Sports. If you're a Tebow fan, you may wish to avoid all of the sports shows and sports talk radio for the next week. The Tebow critics will be out in full force as they proclaim that the quarterback simply cannot get it done on the NFL level. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Was the Tebow hype train exposed as a fraud? Or is this just a minor setback for Tim Terrific as he begins his inevitable rise to glory as a pro? You tell us. Reporting for Conservative New Media, this is Paul F. Villarreal.